Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Sorry. I just got back from the gym. I forgot my phone. I forgot to take my phone, and then I freaked out because I'm like, did I drop it in the parking lot? Did I leave it under the bench? No, 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 no. I did find it. I left it out at home. So we're good there. But I had fun playing basketball. I just couldn't really. I planned on lifting weights, but without the music, it's kind of. I'm making excuses. I just didn't feel like it, and ended up playing basketball. All right. The point is, I got my phone. Let's go. Stuff you guys don't care about. The original link to the video, top of the description, right below that. Link to the Discord, right below that. Link to the second channel. Let's do it.
Front continues.
Sorry. How many times do I say let's go, let's do it before I actually do it? Stormtrooper, German Special Forces of World War I. Oh, this is the Great War. Okay, World War I German Special Forces. Is this like the commandos of the British, or... Excuse me. Let's go.
1916. The stalemate in the trenches of the Western Front continues, both sides desperate to come up with new strategies and tactics to break sophisticated enemy defenses. As the year came to a close, neither side could any longer afford to send wave after wave of men out against machine guns and artillery. But what would they do instead?
Improvise.
The British and French would secretly develop tanks, but the German High Command would improve the quality and effectiveness of its infantry. They created Stormtroops. I'm Indy Nidell. Welcome to a Great War special episode about trench warfare and German stormtroops. Now, we did one special about trench warfare already, where I talked about various close combat raiding groups and assault patrols engaged in trench combat. But you could really see that the mass slaughter at Verdun began to change overall infantry tactics to a certain extent for the French, but on a large scale for the Germans. French Army Captain André Lafargue was one of the first who wrote about the realities of trench warfare and how small, concentrated troop formations would need to operate independently as opposed to under rigid directives from high command. While the Allies mostly ignored his writing, German high command used captured texts of his pamphlets and combined his ideas with their own experiences of infiltration tactics. The Kalsow Assault Detachment was the first experimental Sturm Battalion, deployed on the Western Front in March 1916. And it consisted of a headquarter element, 2 pioneer companies equipped with body armor, specialized shields, and steel helmets, and a rifle company as support, equipped with a 37mm gun. It was really too soon to see any success or to even use the new weapon as intended, but the general idea was beginning to form. The real birthplace of the stormtroops was in the East. The terrifying new tactics used by the Russians in the breakthrough of the Brusilov offensive, sudden but massive and accurate artillery strikes, quickly followed by concentrated shock troop detachments, were soon to be adapted and improved by the German captains Willy Rohr and Bernhard Redemann. Now, the Sturmabteilung Rohr was already known for their shock troop tactics in the retaking of the Hartmannsweiler Kopf in 19...
Is that just what everything looked like? Like there's just no more forest anymore? It's just a lot of mulch on the ground and just dead trees.
1915. Shock troop tactics in the retaking of the Hartmannsweiler Kopf in 1915, and as part of the Fifth Army at the Battle of Verdun. Together with Redemann, they developed new doctrines of small unit tactics. They saw insufficient weapons training and the lack of coordination between the units as the major problems. The new shock troops would be quick and mobile while being flexible in their approach of a situation. Precise operational timing was the key for maximum effectiveness. They chose 2 timing.
What's that thing in his left hand? Obviously, those are grenades, but in his left hand, he has like a... It almost looks like a ice pick axe, like you would... Or like a pair of pliers.
Was the key for maximum effectiveness. They chose two specific types of German infantry to build the core of the Stormtroops. First, the Jäger Corps. The Jäger were light infantry, traditionally specializing in woodland or wilderness combat and operating in smaller units. Their skill in light infantry tactics like sharpshooting and their decentralized leadership made them an ideal choice for Stormtroop detachments. Second, the Pioneer Corps. Like the Jäger, the Pioneers were experts in small unit operations under low-level command structures. Their expertise lay in erecting or breaching obstacles and in the art of grenade throwing. This made them very good for storming enemy defensive positions. In addition to their weapon and attack training, they studied how the enemy reacted to their assaults and moved through the trenches, and how to prevent resistance from forming. The new Stormtroop tactics of Rohr and Redemann maximized their training to deadly effectiveness. The new battalions had very strict requirements. Soldiers could not be over 25 years old, had to be mentally and physically tough, single, athletic, and also had to have one other characteristic. They had to be aggressive. This was the key factor in the new doctrine. It was vital that the Storm would always take the initiative from the enemy. The new tactics also changed something else, which is often overlooked. They brought about a revolution within German military culture against the old style of Prussian leadership, which held to strict rules.
Sorry, I know better now, but you always think of these helmets and you think of Nazis, but they had them in World War I. I know better.
German military culture against the old style of Prussian leadership, which held to strict rules in the chain of command. Orders came from high up, and junior officers coordinated with their superiors. But for Stormtroops to be effective, this had to change, and junior leaders had to be allowed to make their own decisions. Stormtroops went hand in hand with decentralized leadership. Führe nach Direktive, leading through direct command, and Auftragstaktik, mission tactics, all without coordinating with high command, all revolutionary thoughts. Stormtroops became the new elite in the German army, hand-picked soldiers who lived and trained in exclusive companies and enjoyed better rations and more time away from the front lines than regular troops. On the other hand, their missions were extremely dangerous and the casualty rate was extremely high. General Erich Ludendorff encouraged their deployment in all German divisions, and they continued to evolve. Soon they would have flamethrower, trench mortar, and grenadier detachments, and General Oskar von Hutier would give his name to Hutier infiltration tactics, which combined surprise artillery bombardments with lightning encirclement movements. Like regular trench raiders, Stormtroops were not tasked with capturing and holding trench lines. They were lightly equipped but armed to the teeth, with loads of ammunition and hand grenades. In general, they preferred the shortened Mauser.
Lightly equipped but armed to the teeth? I feel like I get what they mean. They have very little non-combat oriented supplies.
With loads of ammunition and hand grenades. In general, they preferred the shortened Mauser M98 carbine, the 98K. Rapid-fire pistols like the Mauser C96, Danish Madsen light machine guns, and the MP-18 submachine gun. Special grenadier squads would carry bags full of hand grenades, while others operated the flamethrower, the rifle grenade, and small mortars. They were trained to use all arms in combination with each other. They also studied the enemy's weaponry to be able to take it and use it against him. A standard attack was to approach the enemy unseen, perhaps at night or in fog, cut the barbed wire, and wait for a sudden, violent, and accurate artillery barrage. In the confusion of the barrage, they emerged from cover and assaulted key points of the enemy defenses. But rather than occupy the trench lines or engage the enemy en masse, they pushed through the trench system, circling and confusing the enemy, and decimating the enemy flanks and the moving exposed reinforcements. The regular German infantry would then...
they're fighting against America, or Britain, but they're brave, so I'll give a salute there.
Destroy the reinforcements. The regular German infantry would then head into the trenches and destroy the defense lines. By the end of 1916, over 30 divisions had experimented with, trained, and finally integrated special battalions of assault troops into their forces. From the Vosges to the Romanian front, at Cambrai and Caporetto, the efficiency of the new German elite forces was astonishing. The final hours of the offensive German war machine were perhaps the Stormtroops' finest. The Kaiserschlacht, the German spring offensive of 1918, had great initial success because the Stormtroops broke through the Allied defenses along the entire line. The Stormtroop doctrine, of course, survived the war. The paramilitary Freikorps used the martial imagery of the Stormtroops, and Adolf Hitler created the SA, the Sturmabteilung. But really, many of the small unit tactics pioneered in the Great War are still taught today all over the world. Erwin Rommel's infantry attacks is even taught at officers' academies in the United States. And what did it mean to the enemy on the ground? Well, here's what Rommel himself had to say.
Rommel.
The fire unit up above blazed away, followed a few seconds later by Friedel's assault squad running through the entanglement path and into the hostile position. Then the forward units of my detachment began to move. The sharp crack of hand grenades in our immediate vicinity drowned out the noise of firing up on the right. A few strides through smoke and haze, and we were in the hostile trench. I reached the trench at the head of my detachment. Up on the right, the trench garrison was still resisting the attack, supposedly coming from that direction. The configuration of the terrain and the dense undergrowth prevented these people from seeing that we had already smashed into their position. They did not see company after company moving at the double into the gap in their defensive system. I've said it before, but it's really fitting here. This was modern war. This was just a brief look at the beginnings of the Stormtroops. Other countries had their own changes in infantry doctrine, and we will talk about them later in our show. If you're curious to learn a bit more about trench raiding tactics and close quarters combat in the First World War, you can click here for our special episode, which was the first part of this mini-series. For some detailed pictures of Stormtroops, like us on Facebook or follow us on Instagram. See you next time.
Thank you, Indy. All right, that was awesome. World War I Stormtroopers. You always kind of get that hesitancy, like, oh, should I be praising? It was World War I, not World War II. All right, so it's okay to root for the Germans in World War I, right? Awesome. Cool. All right. I might watch the trench warfare video since he said that was the beginning of the series, but we'll see. See you guys next time.